Maria. Welcome back to No Apologies. Today we continue with our 6 steps, and we're currently on our 3rd step, which is that man has an obligation to practice religion. Now, we've already talked about how this obligation of religion consists basically in 2 points. 1, to practice prayer, and 2, to obey the Creator's law. And we've shown that the foundation for religion is on the virtue of justice. We recognize that we're not the author of our own existence, and that we all are very limited in many, many ways. When we recognize these 2 things, it compels us, first of all, to thank and adore our Creator for the gifts that He's given us, and then second of all, to rely on Him for His help and His protection, just as a child would rely on his parents for their help and protection. So to not fulfill our obligation of religion is an act of injustice towards the Creator. We're like someone who has a lot of things but refuses to pay our debts. Now, today's vlog, I want to focus in particularly on the obligation of prayer, but even more specifically on the obligation of prayer of petition, because oftentimes there are objections to the prayer of petitions which people put forth trying to disprove God's existence or to disprove that God hears our prayers or is concerned with the things which are taking place here on earth. So one objection which is sometimes raised is, why should I have to tell God the things that I need if He already knows them? And wouldn't it be more generous of God if He just simply spontaneously gave me everything I need without myself having to ask Him? Well, in response to the first part, first of all, we don't express to God our needs in order to inform Him of them. It is true He knows of our needs, but the condition that He's laid down for us to ask Him is a condition He's laid down not for His sake, but for our sake, because it draws from us a remembrance of Him, and it draws from us an act of humility in recognizing our dependence upon Him. So, in response to the second part, that wouldn't it be more generous of Him if He just did give it to us, we respond, first of all, that He has in fact given us many, many things without our asking it. But if He did that always, it wouldn't be more generous, because it's more generous of God to bring about our greater good, which is our salvation, which He brings about by requiring us to approach Him to ask Him for the things He needs. Because again, it makes us remember Him, and it makes us make an act of humility, which puts us on the road to our salvation. Another good objection which was posed to radio replies was from an individual who wrote in saying that for centuries humanity has prayed to God for deliverance from floods, famines, plagues, and distresses, but God has ever remained silent. And the good priest of radio replies, respond first of all that it's false to say that humanity has prayed to God. Some of humanity has prayed to God, some humanity has always cursed God, and some humanity has ignored God. So humanity as a whole has never prayed to God asking for deliverance from these things. So we can't use that as an excuse or a cop-out for our own obligation for prayer. But of those people who have prayed, if you would ask them, you would hear testimony after testimony of ways which God has in fact answered their temporal needs, either by delivering them from some evil or by mitigating the damage from some distress or trial, or by permitting the trial to take place, but providing in other circumstances or by spiritual graces the means to cope with the trial which He allows. So we have to remember that with the prayer of petition, it's not like a Coke machine where we put our money in and push the button and we get exactly what we want. But our prayers are answered in accord with God's wisdom and justice. So Father knows best. So every parent knows that if a child asks for something which they know is going to be harmful for them, will not give it to them. And God works the same way with us. If we're seeking something which is going to be harmful or a stumbling block for our salvation, well, He could hardly be called a good God if He went ahead and gave it to us. So our obligation of prayer remains in the face of these objections, namely because God is our Father, and He treats us as any good parent treats his children, with love, wisdom, and justice. So thanks for joining me on No Apologies. Ave Maria.